pain. Every child deserves to face their fears with measured thinking, not just tears. She's planting seeds of strength.
Good
afternoon. I used the wrong flyer for my opening. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, I'll correct it before we end.
It's okay. It doesn't matter. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good night, wherever it is, wherever you are.
How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I've been doing lots of research for today because I think it's really important. And I'm going to run through some bits. Are we live on LinkedIn now?
I hope so. I mean, it doesn't say. It says we're live on my screen.
Because it only showed half an hour on the last mental health one for some reason. I don't know what that was. But anyway.
What do you mean?
Anyway, there's only half an hour showing on the mental health
recording on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn does that every so often. That's why we put our recordings on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
This
is a wise man over here, you see, a wise man. So I want to talk today a really important topic about transitions. And if anyone knows my book series, it's all about transitions. It's about changing schools, moving house, losing a relative. And you can relate any of those topics to whether it's changing teacher, whether it's changing classroom, whether it's just staying in the same school but having a different group of people with you. So you go from having a form class to going into academic classes. So suddenly children are losing all their friends. And I remember one of the headmasters once saying to one of our parents' evenings, your kids are going to be really angry with you because nothing's going the way they planned it. But what I want you to do is to say to them, you'll see them before, class, you'll see them at break, you'll see them at lunch. And if you want to, you can talk to them afterwards, right? And the answer is that means you're never more than like 2.5, 3 hours away from your pals. So it kind of smooths that transition. And what we're trying to do today is use that kind of methodology of smoothing that transition out without devaluing the child's feelings. That's really important. We never ever do that. We always listen to what they're saying and validate it. But we also have to be aware that if we aren't careful, we will pander to them. And then they'll never be able to cope. They'll have no resilience, no ability to handle life's whatever it chucks at you. So when we talk about Jack and Water, we talk about Water's Jack's inner voice. Water is always your conscious thinking. You're putting you right about things, helping you navigate situations. Whereas Jack is like, I worry about this and I'm going to worry about that and I'm going to have anxious feelings about everything, And the whole point of the two parts to the book is that they reason together. They work out together what is the right action to take in a situation. So the first thing, as I said, is really about acknowledging what they're feeling, validating what they're feeling. If it's sadness, if it's anger, confusion, fear, or even guilt. I remember Ben feeling terribly guilty because we had water that came out of a tap, and WaterAid was showing us on the television all these people who were dying from having no water and having to drink, this awful water. And he was mortified. And it said on the advert, every 30 seconds a child dies from having no clean water. And that was it. Ben was like, every 30 seconds he's watching the clock go around and going, that's another one. And I've told the story before, we had to phone the neighbours, my mum, my brothers, everybody, tell them. And they all said, yep, we've all done it. And I don't know if they all did, but they all said they did. And then I could say to Ben, listen, what it says is true, and you're right to feel upset, but we've done an awful lot to try and help that situation. And that's all you can ever do. You can't fix it. You can't magic wand every single situation, but you can prepare your children to understand that they individually cannot resolve that big of an issue, right? So you just bring it down to their size. So I always use the big fish, little fish, because I think it's a really great way of explaining that is a big fish problem. And all we can do is offer little fish solutions, but you're doing something, right? So you're saying to them, I totally acknowledge how you feel, but by the same token, we have to be realistic about how far we can go. You know, we can't jump on a plane and dig a well. It's, you know, there's a certain understanding there. And again, it's all age appropriate. You know, I can say some things to you and you might go, yeah, that fits your 8-year-old, but it don't work for my 15-year-old. But you just adapt to work out what will make them understand you. You're never ever going to not validate what they're feeling, but you have to understand the why. You have to give them the opportunity to speak to you. And if they speak to you, then you can help them. If they don't speak to you, is when you've got a problem, because they internalize problems, and that those problems that they internalize become so much worse. So, moving on from that, if you can try and maintain as many routines as you can, this is for all children. This isn't for children with special needs or SEN, although it works for them because routine is good for them. But the more routine you have, the easier it is to try and help them to say that after you come home from school, you might have a cookie and a glass of milk or something, I don't know, a small snack and something while they wait for their tea or something, or they're going to do their homework. But you might have that 10 minutes. And that might be the magical 10 minutes when you used to pick them up from school when they were at primary school and they would speak in the car, or when they walked in from the bus. Now they're getting a bus and they get home from the bus, they walk through the door, you get a chance to speak to them if you're at home. Now, I appreciate many of us are working, and so you don't get that magical time. So you have to find your most magical time, and it might be bedtime when you just sit down and say, how was your day? Did you have a good day? Anything good happen? You know? And they might be going, oh no, I want to play out my game, Mum, go away, you know. And you're like, no, this is my 10 minutes, you know. And if you make it a routine, it's either 10 minutes now or 10 minutes then, but I'm going to get my 10 minutes, right? Because I just need to check in on you. Because that's what mums do with or dads, you know. We're guardians. We are here to guard you and look after you. So you got to accept my 10 minutes. It's not negotiable. And I love a non-negotiable. Ben would say I have many. I think I have few. But, you know, that's the contradiction of being a parent and a child or a young adult. But, you know, I thought I was pretty easygoing until I got told I wasn't. By many parents, I was told that I wasn't, compared to them, right? We always had to play a game at the weekend, whether we liked it or not, because I wanted him to do something different to the norm. And even if it meant I ended up sulking, because quite often they'd beat me and I'd sulk. But it's not important. I need to win Mummy Cup because I need to prove how good my mental maths is, and I need to win Scrabble because I need to prove how eloquent I am and clever I am, and I have to win Monopoly because I'm just a cheat. And if someone saw me steal a house or a hotel or a 500, then I got into a lot of trouble. And I would do it to win because I am that person. But, you know, it's not teaching Ben good behavior. It's teaching Ben giggling and laughter and doing something as a family as opposed to doing something solo on his own in his room, and whether it's with friends from school or people on the internet who I don't have a clue who they are. So at least during those jokey moments, he sees how a normal family interact, and his sarcastic dad will give me massive grief for trying to get away with a word on Scrabble that is dodgy or swearing or maybe a bit rude. I mean, Ben would aim when he was about 6, 7, 8. If he could get wee or poo on the Scrabble board, oh my God, he'd won. You know, he didn't care if he won or not. Then, as long as he got wee or poo on there, it was great. Or fart, oh fart, hey, you know. And if he could make fart, then that was it. 100 points. And there I'd be sitting there thinking, I can get a 7 here. Really proud of myself. And he's like literally doing cartwheels because he wrote the word fart. So there are times when this moment that you're craving is actually just silly, but that's good because that's building the strength of resilience and relationship, so that if there is a problem, they'll come and talk to you. That's what I'm trying to explain. That resilience is so important to talk to children about. When you talk about things, and I always paint pictures, and Annie always laughs at me when I do this, but I do paint pictures. So I always remember, and again, stories of poor Ben, he's all over the internet. But when we went to meet his headmistress for the first time, Ben had been told by me that he had to say, if somebody said something to you, you had to say something back. It's a conversation. You say something, I say something. It's a trade-off, right? And with autism, sometimes that gets lost. So it was really something I worked hard on. So the lady said to Ben, she was quite voluptuous and quite large and wore this very huge sort of tent-like dress. And she said to Ben, aren't you cute? Like that, you see. And Ben said, yes, and aren't you fat? And I was like, did you really just say that? Did that come out of your mouth? And I said, say sorry, you didn't mean that. He said, did I say something wrong? I said, yes, darling. You know, when I told you about the honesty thing, that's one of these moments. You don't have to say what you see, you know? Come on, say sorry. And he's like, I'm sorry, I said you were fat. And I was like, no, okay. She said, I'm really looking forward to having you in my school, Ben. And I was thinking, oh, great. Before you've even started, you've made yourself an enemy of the headmistress, right? And she just looked at me and winked. And I thought, oh, thank goodness, you know. And we got in the car and he said, but she's fat. And I was like, Ben, what did I tell you? I'm sorry, Mum, I didn't mean it. I said, fine. I said, do you want to write her a letter to say sorry? He said, nah, I think it'll be all right. He said, I'll say sorry when I see her. And bless his heart, he did. He went straight up to her on day one and said, hello, Mrs. Santo. Good morning. I'm sorry for what I said. Didn't say it again. And I'm like just dying, going, please don't say the fat word. Please don't say it. And he didn't. He just said, I'm sorry for what I said. And she said, you know what, Ben? It takes a lot to say that. Well done, you. And patted him on the back. And off he went. Never mentioned again. And I was like mortified and walking back to the car. But, you know, there are other examples of transitions where I can remember him being like 2.5. And when we moved from our old house to here, previously we'd had a nanny. And so, because I was working like 12-hour days, I just set up a company when I found out I was pregnant, and it was like I was 38. It was never going to happen. It was unbelievable, and it was such a shock because we were having twins. It was like, oh my goodness, from no babies to 2, that's going to be, you know. And then we lost one, and they said, you're likely to lose the other. And bless his heart, he hung on in there. But the point of this story is that whenever you think something, 9 times out of 10, it's so far away from what the reality is. It's like you need to look through a mirror to see a double-sided mirror. Because what happened with me was I would drop him off at nursery and he would hang on to my leg. And I mean, literally, like I'm trying to peel the child off like a... Oh, hang on.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I will mute myself. Sorry.
Gosh, that was hugely loud. Sorry about that, folks. So anyway, I was literally at the nursery. He was hanging on like a limpet. They peeled him off me and said, just go. And one of the ladies said, come into my office. And she said, I want to show you something. And she was sobbing and crying and hanging onto my leg. And I was just feeling like the worst parent ever. Like, this was a baby I dreamed of for 39 years. He's here. And I've invested really heavily in a business that's now a multi-billion-pound business. But when I first invested in it and got involved in it, I wasn't pregnant. I was a businesswoman with no intention of having children because we were told we couldn't. So anyway, long and short, I went into this little office and then she said, right, give it 2 minutes. I said, right, now I want you to go and bob up and look through the window. I said, okay. So there I am, like bobbing up. I'm looking through the window like this and I can see Ben playing. This is like a minute, 2 minutes after I've left, him being peeled off my legs, sobbing his eyes out, telling me he wanted to come home with me. Or he didn't really say words like that at that time. It was more like home. He used to just use one word or whatever. It was very slow speech. So he'd say, home, home now, home. And I used to have to say, no, darling, you've got to stay here. And there I am, walking away, getting in my car, sobbing my eyes out, feeling like the worst person ever. Every Zoom call I ever made was with big red eyes. I looked like I'd never slept because I was always crying. And there he is playing, literally 2 minutes. So we sometimes take the transition worse than they do. Our preparation needs to be that this might be the case and he might do this, but we know that within X time we're told is fine. And I think that's the key here, right? That we understand that it's a two-way traffic. We think one thing and it could be something very different. Whenever you're preparing for any kind of transition with a child, always act it through with them, but with words. So talk them through it, you know. So this is the classroom, this is where you're going to be walking, this is where you're going to be going. It's not that different to before, it's just over there now. And you know this teacher because you had her for, you know, whatever before, didn't you? Or you used to go to, like, one of the teachers he had was in charge of science and nature club that he used to after school clubs. And science and nature club was one of his favourites because you go out and catch bugs and then look at them under the microscope, and or leaves and identify trees and all kinds of things like that. So he knew her from that. So I was able to say, that person you know already, you already like that person. And she likes science and nature just like you. So you've already got that to talk about. And he was like, yeah, that's true. And that was it. Boom, I'm ready. And I'd be looking at them and think, sometimes it's so easy to just find the one thing that they can hang on to, and that's it. They're cool. Whereas you could be going through somersaults about it. Don't question if they get the jelly wobbles, because jelly wobbles are quite normal. The nervousness, the fear, all of that is quite normal. Think of yourself when you start a new job or any of those things. You know, any kind of new is scary for us. Okay. So you're joining a new gym, you know, am I going to be this? Am I going to be that? you're going into a new venue, new pub for the first time, and people seem to be looking at you, and you're thinking, have I got the wrong clothes on, or what's wrong with me, or what's wrong? And it's because you're business suited, and they're all in jeans, and they've done their business thing, and they've gone home and got changed. You're still going from work. Yeah. So I just think we have to really think about our transitions so we can then put them into context for our kids. So the other thing I always like to do is say, give them a bit of control. So maybe say to them, if you have a great week, at the end of the week, we'll go and do something. You can choose. Maybe say to them, if we have a good day, if everything goes okay and it's, you have a great day, then, we can phone everybody and tell everyone what a great day you've had, make it so it's like a celebration. You can give them the opportunity to excel, give them the chance to go, yep, got this, done this, it worked, I used all my special skills and I did it. And those special skills really are just the things that we're talking about: the resilience, the strength, the standing tall like a tree and knowing that you can do it, and not feeling small and unseen is not good. Always be prepared to say, I didn't get that. Can you please do it again? Or can you show me again? Or Ben was such a quick learner. And the one thing that I found really interesting was, if they taught it one way, he would not get it at all. If they taught it a different way, he'd get it first time. And then he could teach the rest of the class because he got it. He got it so good that he now could repeat it and help his friends. So he's sitting seats of tables of 6, and he would help them. But she used to say to me, if I look at Ben and I know that he hasn't got it, or he's looking at me like, what's she on about, sort of thing, then I know that half the class probably haven't got it. And it was interesting how that she learned, this teacher who'd never really had a child with Ben's needs before, which, he was dyspraxic, he had a very high functioning IQ, didn't always pick up on the normal communication, didn't like eye contact, really. For him to give you eye contact was like putting pins in his eyes. That's now how he describes it. But he couldn't do that. He couldn't tell me that when I used to say to him, you've got to look at me, and he'd go, I don't want to look at you. And I go, look at my forehead then. So he always used to look at my forehead. And I said, that's good enough. That's good enough, Ben, because people think you're looking at them. If you're looking out the window, they think you're not paying attention. And then they keep asking you questions. And he said, yes, and I keep getting the answers right. And I said, I know you do, but for everybody else who's looking out the window, who are following your lead, they're not getting the questions right because they're not able to look out the window and listen and pay attention. You've got that kind of mind. Other people don't. They're wired differently to you. So please just look forwards. And, it sounds like such a tiny little nuance, but she would really pick up on it and have a go at me about his, won't look forward, won't face the front of the class. Until one day he did. He just was like, okay, if it's that much of a problem, I'll do it, But that's Ben. We're talking about, but in other situations, many, many children have fidgeting. It's a great one. Ben was not a fidgeter, but lots of children are. Some children do, drives teachers bonkers, absolutely mad. Some people are tappers. It doesn't always, feet are going. It doesn't mean that necessarily even SEND or special education or anything like that. They're just by nature, they might have ADD or ADHD, they might have nothing. They just cannot sit still. They've got ants in their pants, is the expression we always use. And they find themselves in trouble. So the way you deal with that is to say to them, if they're banging a pen or what, I used to say, sit on your hands. They go, what? Sit on your hands. Why would I do that? Well, if you're sitting on your hands, you're not fidgeting, you're not going to get in trouble. Try it, one lesson, see what happens. It's a good idea. That's when I used to go into school as Mrs. Worry, and they used to come and talk about their worries. And I'd give them a little badge that said, I shared my worry. And that would be a sort of thing that we would come up with. Little tiny solutions to very small transitions and issues. But they would always come out as solutions. And they came up with them as well. Because if they did it once, then, or I would say to them, see if you can do it till you get to like lunchtime. And then the next time I'd see him, how did it go? Yeah, it worked. Well, and tomorrow you got to see if you can get till the end of the day, you know? And the first time they do it, it's like, yay me, I did it. It's little wins that people don't even realize are such big things to kids, really big things. And the more a teacher will mention that behavior, the harder it will become for them to change it, because they think everybody in the class knows about it. And everybody in the class is talking about it with their family and everything. You know, there was one little boy who used to had a stammer. And the more it would stutter over his words because the pressure of speaking. And Ben would say to me, but why does she make him do it? And I said, because she thinks it's helping. But he said, Mum, can you have a word? I don't think it's helping, because sometimes he cries in the toilet. So I said, okay. So I said, what do you do when he's crying in the toilet? He said, I try to help. And I said, and how do you do that? And he said, I say, talk to your mummy. I always tell my mum everything. And I said, okay. And what does he say when you say that? He says, I'll try. And I said, well, have you tried sitting with him? He said, not on my desk. It's not in my group. I said, well, why don't you ask if he can come to your group? Because you like him. And maybe if you're there, you'll give him the confidence to be able to do it. Do you think I could? I said, oh, I think you've got some pretty special powers. Wow. Oh, I'll do that then. So the next time he went into school, he said to his little friend, would you like to sit on my table? And the boy said, oh, yes, I would, because you're the clever one. So Ben was like, can he come and sit on our table? And the teacher said, would anyone like to swap? And somebody said yes, and they swapped. Immediately that happened, this little boy managed to read a sentence because he didn't look at anyone else but Ben. Looked at Ben. Ben was going, come on, you can do it. And he did it. And then he looked at Ben and went, yeah. And between the two of them, they came up with a strategy. And all the strategy was, instead of looking at everybody else and feeling complete overwhelm, focus on one person. And I say that now to people when I'm talking about public speaking, just find one face that's friendly and focus on that face. Nobody knows you're focusing on that face because you're just looking out. But in your mind, the one that's nodding and smiling, that's the one you pick on. And you just keep staring at them and get your speech out and you'll be fine. Right. Can you create emotional outlets? I believe if a child is struggling and can't use words, drawing is a great way to express how they're feeling. Past drawing, which is maybe a bit younger, maybe as they get older, I know journaling is like, oh God, she's off again. But I really believe giving a kid a pen and a pad and saying a journal is so easy. And it's like a diary. Do you remember we used to lock our diaries up when we were kids? It's the same sort of principle. You just, every day you write a thought. What is how you feel today? What happened today? How did you feel? Did you feel happy, sad, whatever? And you can even put some symbols across the top, like emojis. So the child will choose an emoji of how it feels. You can make your, I mean, there are thousands out there you can buy, but you don't have to spend loads of money. All you need to do is give them pen and paper and just keep it, and then 2 holes and stick it in an old folder. And then you've got their daily folder, their daily journal. If you can afford to buy them a nice book, buy them a book. But, you know, it doesn't always have to be about money. Sometimes it's the principle and the practicality of doing something is so important. I like, and because obviously I've got some books, I believe that teaching children through reading is really, really easy. So if you've got a child starting a new school and you happen to have a book like this, so Jack and Walter New School Niggles, that book teaches them not only how to deal with joining a new school, but also about how to change classrooms, how to cope with change, full stop. And it teaches the children emotional intelligence, and it teaches them how to reason and work things out. And when you're sitting on that buddy bench and there's no one coming, and you're thinking, it doesn't work, I'm on my own, no one cares. And all of a sudden, somebody appears and wants to share their whatsits with you, you know, or even share your whatsits. You know, it's all about that belief that it will happen. Somebody will come and find you. You will make a friend. You don't need 50, just one will do. Start small, you know, and have that as a win. And when I talk about, you know, moving house can even be changing bedrooms. I can remember having a child distraught that they were losing their bedroom. They had an aunt was coming to live with them, and they were moving out of the big bedroom into the box bedroom. They didn't want to go in the box bedroom. They didn't like the box bedroom. The box bedroom was smaller and it made them feel uncomfortable. They didn't want to be in that small room. But they wanted to be in the big room, which was their bedroom, which was their playroom, their everything room. But they decided to put the aunt in there because she had more space. And this kid was mortified. And I just said to them, can you imagine how sad your auntie is since your uncle died? And they were like, yeah. And I said, and do you think that coming to live with you is going to help her? I was like, yeah, because we're all going to help her. We've talked about it. I said, right. And do you think helping her is like giving her a bedroom where she's got a big bed, like a double bed, is going to help? Whereas if she was in a little bed, she wouldn't be comfortable. And he's like, oh, yeah. So I said, so that's probably why. It's not that she's stealing your bedroom. It's just for now. And it might not be forever. And it might be just for a while. And it might be a long while. But eventually you'll get your bedroom back because she's eventually going to want to go home. He looked at me and he said, so it's just like for a little while. I said, well, I don't know how long it's going to be. But if you think about it, you want your aunt to feel loved and cared for in your house, don't you? Oh, definitely. Yeah. So I said, well, this is your bit. Right. Okay. My bit of the puzzle. That's all it was. His bit of the puzzle was giving up his room. Bereavement and grief is such a difficult topic. And I thought long and hard about how to write about it, because when Ben lost my mum, who he adored, me not so much, but he adored her. She was an amazing grandmother, not so good on the mum bit, but anyway, the point was that he was broken. He was already being bullied. He was already having a hard time at school. And then that she'd always been his cheerleader to him. And for her to be gone was huge. And we were all quite sort of stone-faced, if I say that word. You know, we were quite cool and calm and collected about the whole thing. It was a horrible thing to have to bury somebody, but we were cremating them. And then they didn't shut the curtains. They left my mum sort of sitting there with her roses and whatever. And we didn't have mum, we had Nan, because I couldn't agree to mum, and neither did my brothers actually. So she got Nan. But Nan she was a great Nan, and Nan was on the front in flowers. And as I said, my oldest nephew Jack, he was the one that did the eulogy, and then all the grandchildren went to the front and they lit a candle as part of it all, so they felt part of the service. And then that was taken, they dealt with what they would do with that, and then everyone was still pretty much holding it together. And then as we went to leave, we went to go out, we were at the front on this side, so that's the right side. My brother and all his family were on the left side, and my older brother was behind me because those two don't get on. Anyway, whatever. So I'm here, and I get out the aisle first, Ben's in the middle and Charles. And I walk out and I sort of look at the coffin, and I kind of felt a bit of a moment. It was the first time I'd felt that moment from finding her. Me and Charles found her, unfortunately. So yeah, it was like, oh, okay, that's very real. And then Ben always used to shout, "Bye, Nan, bye, Nan," and they'd scream up the street in the car, and he'd be like, "Bye, love you more." And this is how they'd carry on. And he just walked past the coffin and he just said, "Bye, Nan, love you." And it was just like he was speaking. Oh, we've gone off camera. What has happened? Oh, there we are, back again. So yeah, so it was one of those moments where in that exact moment, everybody burst into tears, because it was what she meant to Ben, and what Ben was going to lose was what suddenly hit us. And then the grandchildren, Jack, JJ, all my brother's kids, the older kids, everyone was sobbing. And it just because of what Ben had said. And it just shows you how poignant that moment is, the realization moment. In the story, we do it retrospectively. We go after a retrospective moment. And that is a far kinder, softer way of handling bereavement. So in the Bantaless breakfast, it's literally that, a breakfast that's got no GP dancing around the kitchen as normal. Everyone's wondering what's going on. And it's dealing with how she feels. And Jack's desperate to cheer up. So in Jack's world, Mr. Subconscious, oh, let's throw a party and say it's all going to be okay. And Water's like, not sure that's a great idea. Let's come up with something else. And they reason out what to do. And in the end, they decide to take Water down and lie on the bench, put his head in the lap, and ask her to talk to him about Grandad Star, because it was 7 years ago, an anniversary. And Jack didn't notice any time before, any of the 6 years before, he'd never noticed. But he was at the age where he noticed, and it broke him, and he wanted to help. And him and Walter went down and said, "Will you tell me about him?" And then she talks about golf and all the things that he used to do that were drive her mad. And Jack's like, I wish he was still here because he could teach me how to play golf. And she said he would have done that. And he liked fishing. Oh, I'd love to go fishing. I wish Grandad Star was here to take me fishing. So now all of a sudden Jack is putting himself in her world, and suddenly it hits him again, just what is missed. Because in the story, the reason she moved in with Jack and his mum and dad and his brother and sister was because she lost her husband and didn't want to live on her own. So she moved into their house. So there's lots of funny little jokes about how she arrived with the furniture, and there's pictures of GP in a rocking chair and in a lorry in the back, and the removal lorry. But it deals with bereavement in such a gentle way that children get it. And so many people have said to me, oh, that book, oh. And we put some in a hospice in just down the road, and Cranberry Hospice, and they were so grateful because there's so many kids there, and who lose grandparents or aunts and uncles or even parents, and they said it really has been so helpful for them. So these are books we give away to people, and then the same with therapists and counsellor friends. They've all got them and they recommend them to people so that they can then go and buy their own copies. But I'm a great believer that if a child reads a book and it helps them transition and understand a situation, you are developing that emotional intelligence that they otherwise wouldn't have. And the parents might not even have, and might not even have the words to help the children. So all they can do is be sad themselves and don't know how to help the child deal with their sadness. And the book fills that gap. And I think it's important to just say that we aren't trying to say that parents can't do this. We're saying this is a good tool to have along with what you're doing. Do it whatever way you want to do it, but have this as an additional tool is a great thing. So the whole book series is all about making sure that you understand the child is going through something at the same time you are. Your anxiety about him starting school is being pushed onto your child. His anxiety about starting school is being pushed onto you. And so that just makes it like doubly hard. So try to work out between you how you can handle that situation by breaking it down, reasoning, understanding, and then saying, right, how about we just get through one day? Let's just try it. You and me will both do it, right? And then how about we even have McDonald's for tea that one day, or something special, KFC or a treat or whatever you want to do. But let's do something to make it special. Or you get extra half an hour of your game that you want to play or something on that one day because you're making it special, because you want to treat them for doing it. It's about rewarding that ability to deal with that situation and not have a meltdown, not break down into tears, not cry to go home, not wet yourself, which lots of first year children do, kindergarten kids, because they're dealing with all of this. They've got to try and remember where the bathroom is. They've got to try and remember to put their hand up. They've got to try and remember all these things. And accident happens all the time. We always used to give all the children's clothes. They used to ask the parents, anybody who's got any clothes that your child's grown out of, to hand over to them, because they were constantly needing to change children's clothes for accidents. And you're not to be mortifully embarrassed about it, because it happens. this is a difficult one, and I wasn't really sure how to handle this because my next book was Big News, Bad News, and I haven't done it and I haven't released it because there's too much big news, bad news, and I don't want to be the one that kind of brings it to the fore. Um, but I think it's important.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Honestly.
What big news, bad news? Well,
Yeah, now's the time. Suddenly there's people here. Jay's here. I suddenly realized Carmen's here as well.
so
Yeah, Jay.
I
I
just,
tell
I
you, it's
just
a way, right?
let me just quickly
Yeah.
finish what I want to say
Go
about
on,
this to
please.
get
Go
into
for
the
it.
conversation. So the thing about news and wars, you cannot avoid it. You might in your house not talk about it. You might not have the television on, but children talk in playgrounds. Same as they find out about the birds and bees and Father Christmas. There's always somebody happy to tell a child a story that they know because they've got an older brother or sister or whatever. So you cannot avoid it. So the way I handled it is this: start by asking the child what they know or what they've heard. So you're not giving them extra and you're not feeding it. So you're asking them what's on the plate. What have you got on your plate? Tell me what's on there. So if it's meat and two veg, you know you've got a bit of a meal to work out. But if it's just a bit of meat or a little bit of vegetables, you know what you're handling. So try and get them to explain it in that way. What do you know? What have you heard? What's going on? And then once you've done that, ask them, what do you think's happening? And they will probably say things like, loads of people are dying, because that's the big thing that I always used to hear. Lots of people are dying. I'm worried about dying. And I'd be like, yep, me too. But it's not going to happen because of this. This is a grown-up situation. And some problems are grown-ups problems and some situations are children problems. So when you have a fight in the playground, that's a children's situation. When grown-ups are going to war and having these kind of situations, they're very much bigger than little people. So that's talking 5, 6, 7. Keep it very light touch, least information as possible. Always going back to what do you know? Because when you ask that question, they'll tell you, and then you can maybe try to go, okay, well, you have to give it validity and accept that they've learned something, and then you take them on the next ride. Okay, what do you do with that information? Always try to explain age appropriately. Try not to do that. I always used to talk to Ben like he was an adult when he was 7, and I didn't realize I did it until someone told me. And then Ben would go to the on the playground, and he'd be the one giving them all the information. So I had a big lesson to learn that I didn't do that. I had to keep it age appropriate. Even though he would have a conversation with me as if he was an adult, I had to remember that he would then go back to school and tell everybody. So, this is, the thing that I try to say as well, and I've written this down and I'm looking at it and it sounds so junior, but it's important. I just used to say some countries just don't like each other. you know, don't make it about religion. Don't make it about color. Don't make it about race. Don't make it about equipment or bombs or any of that. Just some countries don't like each other. Is there somebody, you'll know he doesn't like or they don't like in school, and you just say they just don't like each other, right? Keep it really light if you can. But you can then say, but there are lots of countries trying to stop it and help them work it all out. You know how you work problems out and we sort things out? Well, there are lots of people trying to do that. So, in other words, they're not just bombing the hell out of each other. What they're doing is trying to work it out. Now, we might know different, but that's not what they need to know. They need to know that people are trying to help, because that's important, that they realize they will come to an end. All right. There needs to be an end point. It's very important. Avoid graphic detail. Avoid giving them too much. Just keep it very much light touch. And that's that one. Reassuring their safety is a really important one. Telling them that they're safe here is at home or school or wherever they are, they're safe. Now, we can't guarantee that, but all we can do is suggest it. And we have to suggest it because they need to feel safe. Children deserve to feel safe all over the world. And so you have to say, you're safe here. Everything's fine at the moment. Don't worry, it's nothing to worry about. You are safe. And then they can take what's going on around the world and say, I don't like it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want it. I don't want it to happen. But it's okay. I'm safe. On that note, I shall stop gabbing and pass it over to whoever would like to speak.
Whoever would like to speak. A lot of people like to speak.
Yay!
Yes. How you doing, Jay? I love your t-shirt. I don't know why. I have no idea. I've never seen one before. It just looks amazing to me, right?
Yeah, maybe it's an older version of one that someone has. I don't know.
It could be a newer version for all you know, right?
Right.
Welcome.
My two Superman.
Yeah. I'm liking this StreamYard thing that suddenly changed how it shows this caption thing at the bottom of the screen. It's got a box around it now. I didn't have a box before, just random, right? Sorry. Ignore me. I'm talking about it now. Let's welcome our friends, Jay, and then we'll come to you, my friend, if that's all right. Lots of people here. Say, Jane, we'll see you. How you doing? Says teachers appreciate those closed donations to keep spare on hand. Isn't that nice?
True.
Yeah, of course. Like Jane had some good ideas. It's important to let children choose their rewards and reinforcers.
Absolutely.
So Natalie's here as well. How you doing, Nat? Shows up sometime here, and thank you for sharing the link.
Thank you.
It's a link to join the studio. If you want to join, then please click on that, copy that into your browser. Do what you need to do, right? So, how you doing, Liana? Great to see you. I've been missing for a while, so Jane said, if you don't have a friend, be that friend that you need. Stroke one for others. Isn't that so true, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I spent a long time trying to get my son to be that person who stops the bullies. Maybe it's my fault that he's tended to fight him, literally. Because I was always like, no, if you see someone being bullied by someone, do something to stop it. And I said, now he's nearly 18. Now he's, he's not quite a mass murderer yet. He's working his way there.
Ben did the same thing. He picked one lad up by the back of his shirt, and the guy, he reckoned that he was trying to strangle him because he got his tie. When he picked him up, he got his tie, and the guy was going,
yeah, quite dangerous, that.
Yeah, quite dangerous. And then he just sort of dropped him somewhere else, like those grabber machines. By that time, he was 6'2" and 16 stone, and he was not going to be messed with. He saw a fight, he'd just go, and then they'd like, sixth warmer incoming, and that would be it.
It's the way forward. Michael, we miss you. You were here just now. What happened to you? Probably come back to work. So great to see you, of course. What's Michael saying? Michael says, Restream is not as slick as StreamYard on the clicking the comments thing. So Michael says, I'm so fidgety. My mind is fidgety too. So I'm up and about when I'm talking out loud. Can't fix myself and mind on one thing. It's like, if I'm not generating frequency, then I am uncomfortably uncomfortable. Yeah, well, you were talking about people tapping earlier, weren't you? Tapping. Some people make noise. Some people just move around all the time. So I'm thinking of my friend Crystal. She moves, and she also makes. She hums.
Yes.
even when she's talking, she's humming. I'm like, I don't know how you do that, but literally, I suppose like you got to find a way to soothe yourself, right? To sort of calm yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's trauma response. Yeah.
I think we have to be understanding as a people, right? As a whole, we just have to be, let people find their way to be comfortable. I don't know why I do it. I lose my mind half the time. So that's my simple trick. But I'm sure we'll come back to that, sooner or later. So, Linda Jane says play therapy is a great way to communicate their thoughts and non-verbal, especially when it comes to the kids, right?
100%.
Welcome, Linda. Oh, this is Jane. Jane, you want to join the studio? I swear. I used to give my students fidgets to comfort them. Fidget spinners, those little things, right?
Yeah, they were huge. Yeah.
And there's many other
And
things.
squeezy balls. We
Yeah.
used to have squeezy balls. Yeah.
I prefer the those bouncy balls that you can throw and it comes back to you.
No.
Yeah, that doesn't quite work so well in the class.
No, actually, one of the favourites for me was blue tack. The stuff you stick up. Just a little knob of that in his coat pocket, right? And if he felt like he needed to do something, he'd just take it out and roll it round and round and round his fingers, and that calmed him no end. So yeah, it's another.
I think chewing gum was probably mine. I chewed chewing gum every day for years. Now my teeth are buggered. Let's not worry about that. Let's leave that alone, right? Ms. Marsha, how are you? I know you're here clearly, right? So we're on Jackie's show last night. Marsha is amazing. She really is. She really is. Now she's
one of my most favourite people.
Yeah, but there's more to come. There's more to come. That's the important thing. I shan't ruin your fun just yet, Miss Marsha. I'll let you tell the world as we see and hear more from you as time goes on, right? But I do look forward to calling you Dr. Marsha. Yay! I want to be Dr. Any. That's not gonna, unless someone's going to get generous and give me an honorary PhD. It's not going to happen, right? Let's not worry about that. Samara, I don't know. I thought you weren't coming, but here you are. Thank you so much. And I sent Smiley invites, and then she said, "No, I can't make it." And
I'm glad she did. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mike, as always.
So Paulette's a billionaire. She is a billionaire. She is. She's very close. I tell you. No, you're right there, Mike. She won't tell you.
No. I get enough calls as it is. Okay.
All right. I'll leave your wealth to you, madam. It's fine.
Thank you. I get enough begging letters as it is. Thank you. I said my company is $1 billion company, but I only own 5% of that, and it's not 5% of the billion. It's 5% of the profit. So it's not as valuable as it sounds.
Paulette, somewhere in the world you're a billionaire.
Okay, all right.
Nigeria, for example.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to be a millionaire there, I tell you. And we're all multimillionaires as far as Nigerians are concerned. But let's ignore that for now. Prof, welcome. Glad you're here. And that's, of course, you work with kids. You're the greatest maths teacher there ever has been. So it's good to see you. So I can listen to Paulette's read the phone book. Yes, Paulette, that soothing voice, the way she's so calmly, I struggle. I think I'm going to sleep, but I think I better not. Where's Dr. Lisa? Dr. Lisa is meant to be here somewhere. Someone's seen you, Lisa. Someone's seen you. Look, don't forget to join our show later. So, your metamorphosis. We're talking about menopause reclaimed. Yeah, we've got Sir Stanley Green. Sir Stanley Green as our special guest today.
Hey.
I will say this in case I'm sure no one knows. Your time's gone forward, Jay. The US time's gone forward. Ours haven't. Ours go forward end of the month. So all the times are all screwed up. So we're meant to start at 10. We're going to start at 9, Paulette.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, now I told you. Hopefully we'll go back to 10 next week. But Lisa says let's do until our clocks go forward. Then let's do 9 o'clock. Either way. Well, it's fine. It's what it is, right? So Nikki, I see you. But do join us. Now let's talk about men and women changing their beliefs about each other when that transition comes. in there, sort of it's a conversation, right? I don't know who LinkedIn user is. I have no idea.
Could be Annie.
It could be. I could check, but I'm not going to check just yet. So I welcome Nikki, right? Nikki, how you doing? I haven't seen you for a while. So Rebecca's here as well. As Rebecca say, I have an educational startup. If anyone would like to connect, I'm keen to totally remodel education. Interesting, like glad I came up on my feed.
Thank you.
That's something to connect with, right?
Definitely.
The Jack and Water books in schools, it's a miracle. Jay is here too. Oh, Jay, you are. There you are. There you are. I think is that everyone? I think that's everyone, right? Yeah, that's pretty much everyone. Right. Yeah, look, the thing I'll say if I give the mic to Jay is that this transition conversation, I think it's a lot about adults. So when I think about it, life is all about transitions. Wouldn't we love for things to just stay the same, comfort zone, where we rot away and nothing happens, right? No growth, everything just stays the same. But it doesn't happen. It never happens, right? Every day there's a new transition, new job, kids come. I mean, we're getting older every day, and that's probably the biggest transition I've noticed. And it's how we handle those transitions that we pass on to our kids half the time. Some people are just anxious, whereas I'm quite blasé. I think I'm willing to just face them all. I didn't like starting a new job. I hated starting a new job. I just didn't. I still don't like it. That's why I work for myself, right? So I never have to do that bit because it was. But I think it shows what we do. We put our anxieties on the situation. Why would a new workplace be any worse than the last one? Because the last one was pretty terrible anyway. That's why we're leaving, right? That's the question I'm asking, really. But so maybe the biggest example is is what you said earlier, Paul. Like the kids and new school, nursery, new school, whatever, right? And the parent always thinks it's gonna be so hard on my baby, and the kid just walks in and goes, "Yeah, bye," and they're gone. Even if they cry for a bit, as long as you manage to say, "Right, off you go," they'll look after you. You'll be fine. They're gone and they're having fun instantly. When we're left to sort of ponder, our pain. I don't know how I want to describe that. I just find that so weird. Anyway, let me stop talking. Jay, welcome, my friend. How are you doing?
Doing fine, Eddie. So, it's been a minute since we've all been together on the screen. So, I've been trying to do that. Lots of things have been going on. But, one of the things that as we get older, right, we realize there's so many people who have impacted our lives, some good, some bad. But we really remember the ones who've had those impacts. And some of them have passed, right? And I don't know about you, but for me, the more we lose these folks in our lives, the more we start to reevaluate our own and try to be the best we can be for others, to be able to impact them in a positive way. And that's what I've been trying to do. I'm trying not to be an a-hole. Really. I want to be there for the people who have done right by me and for me. And so one of the ways is by showing up and supporting them. And so that's why I'm here. That's one thing. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, words matter and the meanings of those words. And I think transition, there's a connotation for me there. And the transition, it's something that happens, but it's not normally something that you have control over. It's a transition. It's something that's going to happen. And I think that's why a lot of people and social media has picked up on the word pivot. because transitioning means it's not something of my will, it's not something, it's there, I have to do it. But pivoting means I'm making the move. I'm making that turn. And I think a lot of us kind of get that confused though. That we don't have control over this. We're not able to do that. But really, if we look inside, we can see that there are things that we do have control over, and that's what you were talking about. And I think that's a lot of what you write. You know, it's kids don't think that they have a lot of control over things. And so, how do we help them through that? Whether it be a transition or an actual pivot. And I think you offer those in your books, the ability to pivot, even if you are a child. And so that's important. Speaking of children, this is my granddaughter. Say hi.
Hello.
This is Camilla, Mia, as we call her. And you know, when we think of things, and so in my personal life, her great grandmother, her husband passed away recently. And so there is a transition, but there's also some pivoting happening. That pivot is trying to figure out how to incorporate her great grandmother into the family life here as opposed to Guam. Yeah, she's sleeping because Guam, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. So we are doing all these kinds of things. Hi, baby. We're doing all these kinds of things in our daily life, dealing with changes, dealing with transitions, and making pivoting moves, right? Taking those turns. And I think it's important to make the distinction. So it's important that we all understand everything from the perspective of meaning. What does transition mean? What does pivot mean? And I think that's important. And for kids, it's truly important in their development, and especially ones with special needs or with issues that adults have to reckon with, right? So, I appreciate the work that you do, Paulette. And
Thank
yes,
you.
that book that you were talking about, I think that's good. I think that's a good one, especially now in this environment and in this climate. I think they need some help. Parents and children, they need the help in this environment and what's happening across the globe. These are some, let's face it, scary times, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult.
Yeah.
And to be able to face those transitions and the things that we can pivot to, I think trying to understand that is definitely important. So I just wanted to bring that
No,
to the
thank you.
conversation.
I think as well that we have our own fears as adults, and our fears, just like the good things that we do, that we might be able to sing, and our children are able to sing because that is something that they've learned from us. You know, monkey see, monkey do, as they say. The fear thing can be passed on. So if you are walking around in a state of fear and talking about fear, then there's a chance that your child will be in an even bigger state worrying about what's going on in the world, as opposed to trying to say it's it's an adult, it's a big problem. Yes, you're right, but you can't fix it. So all you can do is try and be the best human you can be at school, and and if somebody's upset about what's going on, or their daddy's in the army, or their whatever, then you just have to be kind to them. And that's the kind of way that I wanted it to play out, is, you know, try and use the words about being kind to people who are certainly service people. And then on top of that, I think just trying to tame your fears around other people. Watch the news once a day if you want to watch it at all. Don't watch it every day. Every day, 3 times a day, 5 times a day, 24/7, and 50 different channels, because they've all got a different perspective, Try and have 2 channels and go, Jay.
I agree. I want to share something with you that I just stumbled on recently. And, we've all adopted kind of that saying of, the oxygen mask in an airplane, right? And I believe that to a certain extent. But I think what's unique about me coming from an island, we get exposed to all kinds of crazy things, including scuba diving. For some, that's scary, but I would prefer to look at it from a scuba diving point of view, not an airplane oxygen mask kind of view. Let me explain. In scuba diving, right, you're always diving with a partner. And if you're diving with a partner and the partner loses oxygen, what do? Do you keep the oxygen mask on yourself and let them die? You buddy breathe. You taught to buddy breathe so that you both reach the surface. There's no, I'm not helping you because I got to help myself first. It's no, we got to help each other. Here's how we're going to do this. And they're taught all the time and reminded all the time, especially with recertification, how to do that, right? So it's not about, I got to breathe first. It's about, we both got to breathe together. And every time I watch you, and I may not come and share my views all the time, but when you do, when you and Annie and everybody else who joins in, when you share, you're buddy breathing.
Absolutely.
And I think that in certain circumstances, yes, the oxygen mask in the plane, that's important. You got to take care of yourself, absolutely. But when you're trying to have an impact, a positive one, on other people, you can't just, sorry, buddy, I'm going to make it to the surface. I'll get help. You can't do that when you're scuba diving. No. And I know, and I feel that that's how you operate majority of the time, Paulette.
Yeah, I try to, because I think if you feel like you're walking alongside me when I'm talking, or you feel like you are taking in what I'm saying and then able to pass it on, that is exactly that. It's buddy breathing. Absolutely. It's a great way of looking at it. And I think that we all need to do that for each other a little bit more, because that's kind of where we are at the moment. We're all looking out for ourselves, and we need to perhaps start that thought of buddy breathing, CJ, what do you think?
Muted for now.
Yes,
yeah.
Hey, hi.
Hey.
Oh,
what do I think? I'm okay.
Good.
I've not been very well this week, so miss all of my friends. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say today, Paulette, but so nice to see everyone. Just enjoying some sunshine, as you can see. At least getting some fresh air, right?
The most important thing is the fresh air. Breathe it in.
Yeah.
And just look after you the best you can, sweetie. That's all we can ever ask of each other, right?
Yeah. Love everyone.
And always give me a ring.
A little bit better. I'm sure there'll be more for you to add to, CJ, as we go. Jay, is that real sunshine behind you?
Yes. Yeah.
Talk about that's 3 in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning is still dark here.
Yeah.
No,
trying to soak in the sun.
Vitamin D, come for me.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
jealous. Look,
It's
there's one
definitely
thing I was
well needed.
there's one
Definitely
thing I
well
want to pick
needed.
up on what Jay said, which is the point that many of life's transitions are unavoidable.
Yeah, they really are.
We can't avoid, we can't avoid most transitions, you know, and
Yeah,
it's how do we face those with confidence, with Stanley Green would say, with power,
I
because
think,
we're going to face them anyway, right?
yeah.
Go on, Tanda, please.
It's funny you say that, Annie, because obviously, you and Paulette are both aware of what I've been through the last few years, and it's I think it's one of those things that you have to have two things: hope and faith. Um, and if you don't have either one of those, it makes things extremely difficult to go on day to day. Because without hope that there's a tomorrow, then, why continue today? Without faith that there's, the universe, God, fate, whatever your belief is, my personal belief is in God, and I believe that He is in control. And if I try to take that control away, let's just say that it's a good thing I'm not God, because there would, yeah, it's just a good thing I'm not. That's um, but I think without hope and faith,
Hmm.
there's
Yeah.
Can I add
it's
another
it's
one?
dread, and gloom,
Yeah,
so
but you have hope and you have faith, and then you
yeah,
should hopefully, please God, have friends or family, and
yeah,
they are
yeah,
what carry you.
and yeah, and that's, I have you guys. As I've over the last few years lost a lot of my family to death, and unfortunately, death creates a lot of extra loss. And when you have family that, sorry about the truck, that separates themselves from you. And I think that hard times really uh, shows you who your true friends are, who family really is. And I have people in my life that are more family, um, that are not blood, that I don't know if anybody else in the room has that, but that is one thing that I have noticed, that when there are tough times, you find out real quick who really is behind you, who will stand with you, regardless of what your beliefs are. I have a really good friend of mine that, we don't have the same beliefs politically, or, uh, you know, with our religion, but yet uh, we still love each other, and we don't have to, we agree to disagree, on certain things, And we don't have to dwell on what we disagree on. And we can still love each other and care about what's going on in our lives without having to, drag those other things into it. And I think that that's where a lot of people, you know, might make mistakes. And I say it's a mistake, but, I guess you can, everybody has a choice. And that is in choosing kindness, right? So we might not believe what the other person believes, but so what?
Just give you
Everybody's
just
in
you just give them
cycle.
grace, keep your own
Yeah.
opinions, and
Yes.
you move along together, and
Exactly.
you buddy, like Jay said, you just buddy breathe together, and it doesn't matter. And that's how
Exactly.
I believe the world. I know it isn't that way in the world, because I wish it was that way in the world,
Yeah.
but I keep fighting to make it that way. you
You and
know
me both.
sometimes I feel like it's a very small army, but that we do need to look out for each other, our fellow man, our fellow human. We do need to do that. And families can be very difficult, and families can have all kinds of issues. And I know that. I was in care, so I know that things all go up, up the chute. But the point I would make is that when you find the friends that become the family that you never had, that's when you realize what family is.
Yeah.
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 And so
Yeah.
hang on to them.
Yeah, and I can say I agree with that. I think that's probably another transition in life that's not stated per se. It's not stated clearly as a we're all gonna start where we are, and then we're gonna carry on through life, make friends. We don't need a million friends. And I think the ones that are there when the stuff hits the fan, they are our real families, and we will have to make those friends, those family as we go. It's just part of life. I think no one tells you when you're young, for example, that your family may not be your biggest supporters, your biggest cheerleaders. But I think we all discover as we go through life that we just have to often make choices of who our friends really are, and say it's the
Yeah.
hard times that help us to really work it out. And I think also many people just have an unusual belief about life. Look, in the end, everyone's gonna die. We're all gonna have to suffer grief. That's Paulette's book again. All of us have to, whether we like it or not. It's just not, and then no, it may be at the end of that we have to make this decision: who's our real family, because that's all we have left. But we have to brace ourselves for it. Yeah, and I think somewhere in the journey we have to have self-belief, Chanda, in the way you started off, right? Belief in God, yes, but I think belief in ourselves, because the reality is this: we are strong enough to deal with the transitions that come, whether we like it or not. We are. We have to, and we will do, right? Because
Yeah.
I think I would love us to really truly believe in ourselves and say, come hell or high water, I will manage to get through it.
I
Mhm.
used to say to some children, older children, sort of 13, 14, that if you think about yourself as a 10-pin bowling pin, right? You get somebody comes at you and they throw that ball at you and you go flying, right? And someone's shouting out strike and somebody's going, yay, I knocked them all down. That's you, right?
Mm.
And then 2 minutes later, the machine goes, oh, and up you go again, right?
Reset.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
go, okay, come on then, and
Mm.
the next one comes down at you and it misses you and you go, yeah, see, you didn't get me that time, right? And if you feel like that about life,
Mm.
not every ball is going to hit you, not everybody's going to get a strike, sometimes it's going to go down that galley or whatever they call it. Gully,
Yeah, the
down
gully.
down the side
Gully.
bit, you know,
Yeah.
gully, down the side bit. So it doesn't get you. So you got to think about life as if you're a 10 pin, one of those 10 pins, and just hope. And if you've got belief, you know, all the more, because you've got more on your team. If you've got belief, you've got more on your team. So, you know, you and the team are now standing there waiting for that ball to come. And you know what?
It's a
We're
nice
all there
analogy.
to pick you
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
And
No,
we're
you're
all
never gonna get
there
hit
to pick you
every
up.
time, are you?
No,
No
quite
one gets
often
hit
not.
always.
No, not often, quite often. And I've had them even deciding which pin they wanted to be, which number in the setup, and how it was laid out. And they were trying to work out the chances of them getting hit or not. And it was
Just
a
the
really,
survival.
yeah, it was really an interesting analogy, but it got the teenagers to think. And it's a different way of talking to older children about these kinds of things, you know. You're not always going to be the pin that gets hit. And that is how you've got to think of it. And you've also got to say to yourself, the days that I don't get hit, they're wins.
Yeah.
And we collect the wins, and gradually in our little pot of wins, we get enough to give us the hope to go again and line up again.
Yeah.
We
I
like
don't know
that.
if I'm making any sense, but I
No,
hope
you really, of course you are.
No, that's perfect sense. Yes, that's such a great analogy. And I've unfortunately been the first pin right there in the front that's been hit quite a bit over and over the last few years, and even just over the weekend. So, and
but
I'm
you're up
starting to.
again.
You're
But
still
you're back.
standing.
I'm standing today, and I'm enjoying some sunshine, but I'm gonna have to go back in. I'm feeling a little weak, so I am gonna get back off of camera and go
Okay. Well,
back
listen,
to sit down. But
I'm always
love you,
available.
friends.
I'm on the phone if you want me.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, we'll talk soon, Chanda. You know, we've got a big project to work on, so you know, thank you
Don't
for
worry.
joining us today. Thank you so much for coming to share. You know, you do well. You do well. Miss Marsha, just in time for you,
Yay.
my friend, our superstar friend. And I'm not going to call you Miss Marsha from now. I'm going to call you Dr. Marsha,
Dr. Marsha.
just to move nature along, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Manifestation. That's what we
That's
want.
the one.
Yes.
Dr. Marsha, hello.
You know, Paulette, great to see you,
And
Jay,
darling.
Annie, and all the friends in the chat. Man, like I want to give you guys all a warm hug, honestly, and Shonda. I last night I got emotional. Mike LeBlanc, I don't know if he's still here, sent me a song that touched my soul. I mean, I'm still teary-eyed today, actually, because sometimes you forget things and then you're like, oh my gosh, I just remembered something. Through music, right? Music is healing. Music reminds you of things. And I would put myself on, but I'm not looking my best right now. And then plus I was just crying.
We can
Not
hear
in a
you
bad way.
clearly.
Sometimes you just have to let things out, And being here with you guys just got me my emotions and listening, and sometimes I just want to listen, love you, Jay. But yeah, I just was here just to support you, obviously, Paulette always, and Annie, because you guys have both been such strong mentors to me, and more than that, more than that, I can't even describe it into words. But you guys have seen the bad, the real bad in my life, at least. And I know there's a lot worse than that. We've overcame, and now forward. And Shonda, I'm cheering you on, girl. If you need me, please connect. I'm here. And I was saying earlier today, I went to prayer, and there's a lot. Everyone comes up and prays, and for some reason, I just felt that I needed to pray for people that are behind doors, that are afraid to share either their addictions, their thought process, or whatever it may be, something that they're suffering in silence. And even the unhoused community that you see outside that may look strong, but inside they're so broken. And I just, felt in my heart that I needed to pray for everybody. Because and of course, everyone doesn't pray, and that's okay, but we all need to send that positive energy to one another, because life is tough. Life is tough. It goes up and down. But you're not alone, all right? You guys are not alone. I know I'm not alone. And I'm just grateful for you all. Literally, seriously, I love you guys. I really, really mean that.
I want to say this to you, darling, all right? You have been, I'm saying it publicly. I'm going to say it. I don't care. I'm saying it publicly. You are one of the strongest 10 pins that I've ever known, right? Because you've had to handle everybody else's pins going down, and you never putting your mask on first, right? You've buddied with everybody and then suddenly realized, oh, hang on a minute. I've been the pin that's been knocked continually, and now I need to look after me, right? Now it's time for you to stand up and be your pin and be strong and rooted to the ground and actually super glued to the floor. So you will nobody will ever get a strike against Marsha, because you're so strong. And that's where we're going. And with power of prayer and the power of love, we'll get there. And I really believe that. And I say to people, you can be as strong as a tree. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yep. You just got to stick them roots down and hold on tight. Okay? And I say that from the bottom of my heart, that you really have been the person who's picked up all of everybody's pins, right? They've all fallen down and you're out there picking up them all. And every now and again, one suddenly realizes that, oh gosh, having given so much of myself, all those pins, I haven't looked after my number one pin, right? So now I'm so glad that you are, because to me, that is the biggest win today and for the future, is that I now know that you know that that's what you need to do.
Yep.
That's right.
I had it wrong. I had it wrong at first. I was wrong.
No,
but I learned.
No. I don't want you to say wrong, because wrong implies a mistake. What happened was you turned left and not right. You just got a different direction. All right?
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Yes.
The transition between left and right. You didn't transition, you pivoted. Using Jay's word. You pivoted, right? And that's what you pivoted to. All right? So you pivoted, and now you're in that is rooted to the ground. And I personally have put so much super glue under your feet. There's nobody can knock you down, right? You're going to be the one pin that stays standing from now on. And with faith as well, there's nothing can touch you. So with all us lot rooting for you, you've got the most love in the world. I tell you, you're so much love. There's buckets of it. You could go around the whole of your area and there's buckets of love for you. And all when that love comes back, it's so surprising, you know. I never realized this, and I'll be completely honest. I didn't realize that when you give love out in the spades that you give it, sometimes you get it back and you don't expect it. You don't expect it. You just give it. And when it comes back, it's almost like, I don't deserve this. Why have I got this? I don't deserve it. Right? But actually, if you sit back and think about it, you deserve it in spades. So just remember that one too, because I really, really want you to understand that when you give so much of yourself, you get it back in spades. And that love is all around you. And we're protecting you and looking after you. And protecting that. We got your pin. We got your pin, girl. Okay?
Yes. Thank you, Paulette. You got me crying over here. I'm going to put myself on pause.
I never meant to make you cry. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. But you understand. You
Talk
do.
to Jay.
Okay.
Now let's talk to Jay while you collect yourself, right? Now, let's talk to Jay for a second.
I'd like to know what Jay thinks about what I said about the bowling pins, because I think he would understand that analogy really clearly.
I think so, and I think I represented it right here. Just
Hang on, Annie, can we have number 3 pin, please?
He's the spare. He's the spare. So
a special bit of oil that he puts on his shiny bones, right?
Well, so listening to you, I think there's really sage wisdom in that. And we're talking a lot in analogies, but the bottom line is what you said earlier to CJ, and that was no matter how many times life may put you down, you continue to get up. And you get up and you get up and you get up. I have a mentee who has just been beaten up by life, so cynical about every little thing that happens. And at one point just said, why? Why am I doing this? Why do I keep getting up in the morning? Why? And there was an issue with his family that just got him depressed. And he just said, what if I do this? What if I do that? It doesn't matter. Nothing matters because of this family situation. And then just the other day, just this past week, he sent me a video showing that he mended that issue with his family. And if he just stopped and didn't pick himself up, he never would have reached that point to send me a video of how he mended his relationship. And I was sitting there just like you are, Marsha, in tears because he kept going. And I kept encouraging him. And even if he felt like, what does it matter? I once even told him, I said, if you don't see the beauty in helping yourself, then look at, again, that buddy breathing, helping a young man who was just like you years ago. You need to find your purpose. And maybe it's helping others to avoid the situations you've been in. And that was really something that he was considering, but he never gave up. He never gave up. And he continued to pivot every time a huge transition came into his life. And that's why buddy breathing to me is such a great analogy. And the pins especially, because like she said, I was at the front of that order. I was the first pin. Man, what if we set ourselves up to be on the ends? Right? And you know from playing like bowling that when you do that and you have those pins set apart and or at the end, it's the hardest thing to hit. I'm going to be setting myself up on those corners. Come get me.
The teenagers would map it out. They'd pick their pins. And it's like giving them the choice, letting them decide which pin they're going to be, is like giving them back an ability to take ownership of whatever's going on and say, okay, I'm not going to be that number 1 pin anymore. I'm not taking the bullying. I'm not taking the abuse. I'm not going to let them steal my dinner money anymore. I'm not going to let them knock me over with my rucksack every night. I'm going to be that pin and I'm going to root myself. And you know, sometimes people also only need one person to believe in them and to encourage them and to let them know that you're there for them. And it's like they're given the world. Because if they don't have that, because maybe the parents don't have the emotional intelligence to handle these kind of situations, so they do feel on their own. And then you come in and you go, look, I am now your friend. I am now here to support you. I'm your network. And they're like, so you're in my camp? Yeah, I'm in your camp. Wow. But what they don't realize is you're in everyone's camp, right? But for that moment, when you're with them with that 15 minutes, that means you're in their camp. Just like when Marsha goes and meets these homeless people, when she's standing talking to that person and trying to support that person, she's in their camp. And that's how you make people feel in that moment. That's all you can ever offer, is to try and support in that moment. Because we can't be everything to all people, because we spread ourselves too thin and then we fall over. We become number one pin. So, you know, it's about being, I love the buddy idea, and I think that's really important. And I think that we as parents and grandparents and godparents and nieces and nephews and cousins and whatever else we are, we know when we have the facility within ourselves and the ability within ourselves to be a mentor to others, or just to be a big something to look up to, or just to be somebody in that camp for that person. Please be it, because I've seen the results of doing it. On that note, Annie, I'd like to close up because I know you've got to go. Can we listen to Marsha's song? Is that possible? You're muted. Superman, you're muted.
Deliberate, right? Let me try and work it out. So,
off the concrete grave, another morning where the broken find their way. She's walking slow, carrying more than she should hold, a clipboard and a promise in the Bayou City cold. I've seen 100 helpers come and fade to noise, big hearts and good intention, then they lose their voice. So I watched her from a distance, told myself the same. One woman on these streets won't change a thing. But she says, hope lives when the sidewalk's hot and the shelter is full. She says, hope lives when the phone don't ring and the cupboard's bare. When the system says there's nothing left to give, Marsha stands in the gap and says, hope lives. Some days are good and some days are tough, but hope still. Then I saw the man who hadn't met somebody's eyes and longer than he cared to count beneath these open skies. She stopped and said his name like it was something worth a breath. Sat down on the curb beside him, no agenda, no regret. And something in his shoulders dropped like weight he'd carried years. I watched him speak, she leaned right in. I think I saw him disappear back into someone's son again, back into his own name. that one set of hands in Houston couldn't hold back all that mess. But I watched her walk those streets again, through the heat and through the rain. Now I understood that hope isn't a feeling, hope is someone showing up again. Now I know hope lives. I've seen it walk these Houston streets. Hope lives in the hands that show up empty but stay full, in the ones who kneel beside the ones who fail, who refuse to let a person be invisible. That's where hope lives. Some days are good and some days are tough, but hope still lives. Hope lives. I came to these streets a skeptic, hands in my pockets, eyes on the ground. Told myself one person couldn't matter in a city this big, in a world this loud. But I watched Marsha stop when nobody else did, heard her speak a name the streets forgot. And somewhere on a curb in Houston, something in me that was cold got hot. She never asked for credit, never needed anyone to see, just a woman and her purpose, walking slow and walking free. And now when I pass the ones the world moves past, I hear it like a heartbeat under everything. Hope lives, hope lives, hope.
I tell you, it's moving. I can see why. And you would be emotional, Marsha, Dr. Marsha, sorry. It is remarkable. Mike has a gift. A gift for the gods, right? A gift from the gods, maybe. Where are we? Okay, we're still there. That's remarkable. Is it just me that thinks so?
I was crying.
No, you fully deserve it, Marsha.
Yeah.
You deserve it. You deserve it.
Oh, when you're out there and you see the eyes looking at you and they're waiting for you, yeah, it hits home. It hit home.
Martha, Marsha, I really hope that's going to be part of your presentation now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leave her alone. Leave her alone.
It's a great way to either lead it or end it. Either way, it should be in there for sure.
Well done, Mike. I'll
That's
say
really
well done,
great.
Mike. Well done for your genius, my friend.
Well done, Mike.
Look, I think I think I'll leave it today with this, and of course, thank everyone that's been here.
Oh, hang on, 1 minute. Ding dong, words of wisdom from Ennio Song. Go on then, in we go.
There are very few. I'll say this, everyone. I think Marsha, CJ, and look, everyone here, we know the story, but we forget very quickly, right? Look, I think Marsha, you're a perfect example of the reality that Jay was talking about. We think life transitions go in a straight line. We start and we're always on the up. But that's not how, we've all seen that graph, how it really goes. You go up, you go down a bit more, but you keep rising, as you said about Marsha Paulette. And I think that's how life is, right? Let's embrace that reality. It's how many times you fall, it's how many times you keep coming back, right? That's transitions in life, really. It's not always going to be joyous. It's not always going to be what we expect. Jay talked about pivoting earlier. I'm saying transitions, life is up and down, but we manage it. We always manage. That's why we're here. Let's remember that. Let's pass that on to our kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the one thing I will say is that, I always talk about that bloody machine that a heart monitor I used to be obsessed with. You know, I spent hours watching this machine just going beep, 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 beep. And if it went beep, I'd be like, oh no, go up and go again, up again. I feel like life is like that, right? Life is like that heart machine. It's just tormenting the life out of us. And it's a roller coaster. And we have to be prepared for it. That's transitions. It's being prepared and giving our kids the preparation for whatever we can to make it as easy as possible. Because if it's easy for them, it's easier for us. Over and out.
Hey, you have the last word, my friend. Feel free. Let's hear from you. What do you want to leave us with?
Well, I think, back to the buddy breathing, right? Sorry, can't let it go. But, especially when you're a parent, right? Like you said, we do our best to give the tools to our kids to be able to allow them to pivot through those transitions. And, Paulette continues to do it through her books and helping other children outside of her own son. Annie, you continue to do it when you encourage others to write their books and to publish their books. And you, Marcia, you do it every day when you meet the unhoused, when you discuss the unhoused, when you talk about empathy for others. And we all do it. You do it, Paulette, Annie, you too. And it's up to the individual for them to take the mask. It's up to them to breathe in. It's up to them to rise to the surface. That's all we can do is offer the mask. Now it's up to them how they want to use it. How do they take the oxygen? Do they take it at all? Right? And hopefully they do. Hopefully the lessons you teach, the discussions you have with the unhoused, the books you write for the kids, and especially the parents, and the encouragement you give to authors and would-be authors, they all take it under advisement and consideration to be able to help themselves. That's all we can do. And I think that the buddy breathing, the scuba buddy, I think that analogy is really something I'm going to focus in on this year because of the environment that we're in. And I thank you for bringing the conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, we thank you indeed, my friend. Look, I love when people give compliments on our shows. As long as you are part of this sharing, the compassion and kindness, J2. I'll say that. You wouldn't have got to your technique if you weren't doing it already. Is my point. Thank you, everyone. Look, do enjoy. Join us for Lisa's show at 9 o'clock. What's that? 5 p.m. Eastern?
Yep.
No, 4 p.m. Eastern because you're 5 hours, 4 hours, something like that. It's 5 p.m. Eastern, Paulette. It's fine. It's 9 o'clock, not 10, right? This climate change thing. Go on, Jay.
Can I have I want to tell you a story about this time change stuff, real quick. I wake up in the morning a couple of days ago, and I said, my phone is different from my clock that's hanging. Did the time change? Didn't have time to think about it because I was running late. And I was like, oh no. So I rush, I get ready, I go. I'm on the road. Here's where everything goes to pot. You see, I'm in the central time zone. That's where I live. I work in the Eastern time zone. So I am traveling forward in time. the minute I cross the line. And so I get to work and I'm like, what the heck is happening? My mind is like exploded. So anyway.
I think I'd call that the DeLorean moment.
Yeah.
Now, anyone where I got to Jackie's show an hour early yesterday, just to be on the safe side. Go, Marsha, please. People should have last word today.
I was just listening to Jay. Thank you, Jay, for bringing it into laughter.
Indeed,
I love that.
indeed.
Thank you for uplifting the
It's hilarious.
spirits here, okay? Because it was emotional,
Thank
and then it was
you.
like,
Look.
let's bring it on in. Thank you so much. I
Thank-
want to thank you in Life to Connect Impact Hub. Each of you have brought life to Connect Impact Hub. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Look, I'm going to end with the Jack and Water video. So I'll share the link in the comments. Go and buy the book if you haven't bought it yet to see what Paulette's talking about. The banterless breakfast has no bants. I'll leave it at that, right? Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Walter, #1 bestseller worldwide. Stories that inspire, becoming every child.
It didn't work.
Bye-bye.
Walter, #1 bestseller worldwide. Stories that Walter, #1 bestseller worldwide. Stories that inspire, becoming every child's guide. She teaches resilience, skill by skill, slowing worries down until they're still. Approaching issues with a stronger mind, building generations one heart at a time. When the storm clouds gather and you don't know what to do, take a deep breath, clear your mind, let the answer come to you. Walter's gonna be there in your present and your future too. So just stop and ask yourself, what would Walter do? What would Walter do? What would Walter do? What would Walter do? Not for profit, but for every child's right to handle smaller challenges, to stand and fight. The bigger stuff takes longer, that's okay, but confidence begins with what we do today. Trustworthy souls and integrity shine at Mental Wellness Cafe. She draws the line between drowning in the darkness and finding light. She lifts them up, teaches them to hold on tight. When the storm clouds gather and you don't know what to do, take a deep breath, clear your mind, let the answer come to you. Walter's gonna be there in your present and your future too. So just stop and ask yourself, what would Walter do? What would Walter do? To clear your mind, give yourself headspace to think before you let the pressure make your spirit sink. Self-belief and talking to someone you trust, these are the tools that lift us from the dust. She champions the dignity of growing strong. Every child capable, they belong all along. Generations rising with the strength she's built. Paulette's legacy, a world without guilt. From Huntington to hearts across the globe, her compassion is the thread that she has woven and sewed. Adults and children, all walks of life, she's extending her hand through every kind of strife. Understanding, patient with the counselor's soul, making broken spirits feel completely whole. With Charlotte beside her, they both believe that every mind can learn, every heart can achieve. When the storm clouds gather and you don't know what to do, take a deep breath, clear your mind, let the answer come to you. Walter's gonna be there in your present, your future too. So stop and ask yourself, what would Walter do?